Hello and good evening, good morning, good afternoon, wherever you're tuning in from. Welcome to season 3 of the Vox Talks. I'm delighted that you've tuned in today, and from wherever you are watching, I think you're going to absolutely love today's edition of the Vox Talks. As you know, the Vox Talks are all about inspiring the next generation of alumni going through hothouse music schools, and this season 3 is really focusing a lot about how to convert your education into your employment or the beginning of your career. So today's guest is a massively good example of somebody who's successful at doing that. And we've known him since he was like yay high, and he's now going on to rock the world as a bit of an Amazon superstar. So ladies and gentlemen, a big round of applause, please, for Mr. Sam Runcorn. And the band goes wild. Hi, Sam.
Hi, how are you doing?
I'm good, mate. Thank you very much. I know you're working night shift, so if you're looking a bit jaded, it's nothing personal. It's just
yeah, about 7 p.m.
Whereabouts are you dialing in from today, Sam?
Back in Barbados, living the dream, back with the parents.
Back in Barbados. Well, I mean, if you've got a second, if you could tell the viewers what you do, who you are, that'd be a really good start.
Yeah. So as you said, joined band quite young. Probably spent about 8, 9, 10 years with the band. Did some work experience and little things, went on different tours and stuff, and went to Little Over Community School. So for any of the kids that might recognise that from rehearsals, that's where I was. And then I went to the University of Leeds to study international business and Spanish. In my third year, I moved to Barcelona and did a 1-year placement with the British Chamber of Commerce, which was an amazing experience. Came back, did my final year of studies, which finished last May. And then in July started what is essentially an internship with Amazon, working as a transportation specialist, which is a slightly ironic title because I think the most technical thing I knew about transportation before this was like the safety announcement on a plane before you go on holiday. So, you know, it's been a big learning curve, but I'll let you know how it goes with converting into a specialist in it.
Man, that's cool. So how long have you been with Amazon?
Yeah, so started at the end of July, so I'm something like 7 months now, so I work in something that's called the Relay Operations Centre, which I guess in a sort of simple way could be a bit like air traffic control for all the lorries that are going around the UK and in and out of the UK from the EU. So with Amazon, they split their logistics into like 3 sections. So you've got on the one hand the first mile, the middle mile, and then the last mile. So to sort of put that into context, so it's easier to understand, the first mile is if you have like the journey of a product, let's say, from the person who sells it to the customer's front door. You've got the first mile, which is taking that product from the seller or the vendor into the Amazon warehouse. You've got the middle mile, which is taking that product from a warehouse to another warehouse if they want to rebalance that inventory around the country, or more commonly from a warehouse to a delivery station. And then you have the last mile, which is the delivery station to your front door. So the team I work in is predominantly working with the middle mile, so all of the Amazon to Amazon movements. But I've also done a bit of additional training to act as a specialist that covers the first mile during the night shift. So the day team usually sorts that out. But if there's any problems or cases, which there will be every night that crop up, I'll be either dealing with those or just making sure they're appropriately catered for until the morning shift come in. So it's been a nice mix of things, to be honest.
Yeah, sounds good, man. You said it was an internship. Is it different to a graduate placement scheme? Is it actually an internship with a big company?
Yeah, so I mean, the way it works is that you go on these. Part of the reason I say internship is because it's technically a fixed term contract, but you know, they always love whacking weird words together and calling it a different thing. And so we everybody that I started with works for roughly 6 to 8 months, and at the end of that you go through an interview process, and that interview process will decide whether you stay either in your current team or whether they want to move you to a different shift pattern or even just a completely different role within Amazon. So you've got sort of that 6 to 8 months to prove yourself, learn as much as you can, find out as much as you can about both what you're doing now, but also what you could be doing. And then it starts a discussion on what those next steps are. So yeah, I've got my interview coming up, so I'm starting to get all that preparation ready and sorted. But yeah, we'll see what happens next. But it's been brilliant so far, and the amount I've learned, like I say, from knowing relatively nothing at the start to where I am today, I've been really happy with that. So
it sounds incredible. I mean, what I'm picking up from this is obviously you went to Leeds to do international business, which, I mean, Leeds is an amazing city. We'll talk about that in a second. But obviously you did the time abroad with the British Chambers of Commerce in Spain. You know, did you feel that the university qualification has really given you what you needed to be at Amazon today? Or would you say that, you know, perhaps the British Chambers of Commerce thing was more valuable because it was a different environment, a completely different thing? You know, were they both equally valuable, or, you know, how have you coped?
So I think it's always tough, like trying to find the balance between academics and real life experience, because you know, the cliche is that grades aren't everything, and they aren't, but they are also quite useful. So, you know, it's good to have foundations of either, you know, GCSEs, A levels, alternative qualifications, and then from there, you know, you carry on, and those things really do help. But sometimes they either just get you in the door for the interview, or they are a useful thing to know. But once you're actually in those interviews, or when they're looking at your CV, or when they're looking at each different like hoop that you have to jump through essentially to get into a lot of these, you know, corporate placements or any placement really, the real life experience really starts to come in as well. With the international business element, it was a really interesting course and I enjoyed it, but it's quite general, quite obviously theoretical in nature, and business is obviously such a diverse subject in that you've got, you know, you've got areas such as marketing, you've got logistics, you've got finance, and loads of others. And even within those, you've then got your Barclays, your Adidas, your Morrisons that obviously, you know, on face value have no aren't like each other at all. So the course was brilliant and it gave me a good foundation. But I think all of my work experiences from the British Chamber down to working in a chip shop have given me an idea of what sort of things I want to do and which areas I'm suited to. And, you know, you pick up little bits of inspiration from each thing and things that help you in along the way. So,
I mean, I'm thinking, because night shifts and what, you know, in my world, Amazon's got a reputation for being a great company to work for, but also quite difficult and challenging. You know, the first bit of time that you do with that can be quite hardcore. So, you know, I was thinking about, you know, is it just a personality thing that you've managed to stick it out and you're doing really well? Or is it, you know, you've actually had education that prepared you for that change?
So I think it's partly, I think you have to be a certain type of person, for better or worse, to do a night shift in the first place. There's a lot of people that would see that and just, you know, it would turn them off. And to be honest, I think it probably would have if we weren't in the sort of job market we're in. But in a sense, you want to get yourself in where you can and get learning. And so I wasn't entirely excited about starting nights, but I think it's been a great decision since. But with Amazon, it is quite fast paced. You don't necessarily do lots of training, theoretical training. You just you do. I did a week of training and then I went into the job, and you learn a lot from the other people on the shift and just from actually from doing the work itself. So it's been a really good company. I think I've had a slightly skewed experience because I work from home, which is obviously a slightly new phenomenon in areas like what Amazon does. And that's been interesting for learning, for building relationships with people on your team. So I've never actually met anybody I work with in the flesh. And that's been interesting in itself. And even if you have to ask a little question, you know, check with someone, do you mind just having a look at this and make sure I'm doing the right thing? You're doing that by messaging them online rather than just having that quick 30-second interaction. So I think in that sense, that's also sort of brought challenges and introduced a new layer of my work style, really, is that virtual working.
Yeah, man, but it's super interesting. Obviously, I'm thinking now that there's some kids that might be watching this, or mums and dads that are watching this thinking, oh, you mentioned you had a year out, and, you know, with Brexit, whether you like it or not, obviously maybe the Erasmus program changing. You know, would you say that you really valued the year out? So, you know, if the kids who were going next year had the opportunity in year 3 to do it, you valued it, you thought it was worth doing?
Yeah, definitely. I think for starters, just going from school to university is a bit of a roller coaster journey, because you go from quite a sort of structured setup to having what I had 10 hours a week in university. And then to go from the sort of comforts of that, living with your friends and only doing 10 hours of sort of structured time and having to work out the rest, to move into a new country and then doing 9 hour, working days like the rest of the world, was, a big shift. But the thing that the chamber did was it really opened my eyes to just how many opportunities are out there, to how the big companies work. We were working with Arriva, AstraZeneca, Barclays, running these events for them, trying to work out how they can promote themselves in Spain, but also how to help them out with government policies. So Brexit, as you mentioned, was a big area. And so, to go from sort of reading these things in a book to actually being stood next to, the managing director of Hayes Recruitment or the vice president of KPMG, to really sort of see how it works in real life was an incredible experience. And just moving abroad was, it was a massive test. And I found it really tough at first, but it was hugely rewarding in that sense. So I don't think I'd sort of be thinking the way I am about the workplace or about jobs if I hadn't done that that year abroad. So it was a remarkable experience.
Totally. And just speaking another language 24/7 is a completely different thing to what most people go through, obviously, because we live in France and, we have the same experience. You can go 3-4 months without speaking a word of English and you're like, you're dreaming in French or you're dreaming in Spanish. Do you still speak any Spanish at all?
So I haven't really, since my exams, kept it up, purely because when I'm not working, I don't really have that brain power in the same way to watch Spanish Netflix. But I've had a couple of calls come through, which have been very interesting. So I had on a shift, someone said, does anyone on this team speak Spanish? Because we've got a driver who really needs help and he can't get through to their line. I was like, I really don't want to do this because I haven't spoken for 3 months, but I'm being paid to, so I probably should. So I took the call, and that was pretty mind blowing to go back into that mindset of, because I think when you study or when you're the one calling somebody else, you're in control of the conversation, so you can direct it with your vocabulary, your grammar, your pace, everything. And to have this driver just start speaking at quite a fast pace about logistics, which I might have done a module on once, but I didn't really think at the time I'd be talking to an Amazon driver later down the line. So in general, no, but it's still come in handy from time to time.
Yeah, very cool, mate. So I'm going to start the journey to where you chose Leeds. Was there a reason why you chose Leeds? Was there lots of international business courses that you thought were good and it was just the city? Was there any particular deciding factors?
Yeah, I mean, I have to say Leeds wasn't actually, it was my first choice when I chose the universities on the actual system, but originally it was just one that I thought, I'll have a look at it. Not sure what I'll think. My brother went, so I'd heard amazing things about the city and knew a lot of people actually who'd said good things. And so there was another course that was international management and Spanish, and I sort of weighed up that course versus the Leeds one quite heavily. The opening day was a big thing, so I was really impressed with the setup, with the way that they structured the day and how welcome they made you feel. Lots of different factors. So I like the campus in the middle of the city. That was great. I liked just it being a big city in the first place, because I looked at places like Bath, which is a phenomenal university, but I'm more of a city boy than I am in terms of going to somewhere like Bath. So lots of little personal factors that made up the decision, but a lot of things that I'm really, really glad about. So, I mean, one thing to mention was that when you do a course like a joint honours with a language, you're going to be 4 years, not like the conventional 3 years. So there's a bit of a worry that you'll make friends that that will be gone when you come back in your final year. And the thing with Leeds is that a lot of people do year abroad, whether they study a language or not. So of the people I lived with, I had a friend that did pharmacology, which is, study of drugs, and he ended up in Australia for a year. A friend that did product design, he ended up in Canada for a year. And then the rest of my friends were medics. So it was nice to not come back from that year abroad and feel like I didn't have any friends again.
Yeah, man, that's brilliant, isn't it? If you think about it. I mean, I really like Leeds. I mean, I did my postgrad at Leeds, and I think Leeds Uni are very good. They support students as well as they can do. You know, I don't know how they're getting on nowadays with the online, but you know, a little bit of a light-hearted thing. You're probably the biggest Derby County supporter that I know in the world. I don't think there's anybody bigger. I know you've got it in the background as we're talking now. How are you coping with the fact that Leeds are absolutely crushing it in the Premiership?
It's tough. It's really tough. And a lot of my friends go into Leeds, you know, they want to be positive about Leeds and talking about how they want Leeds in the Premier League, which is really tough. I mean, the thing was when I was in Barcelona, we had the comeback where, you know, we came back to beat them in the playoffs. And I think that will fuel my happiness and enjoyment on a Leeds perspective for the next 15 years, regardless of whether they go on to win the Champions League and Premier League. So I've got my fix for now. But yeah, I'd quite like to swap those tables round.
I can see that. Well, I mean, we'll start wrapping it up. It's been really good. Obviously, I like to ask people, have you got any favorite memories from band or when you were doing music at school or anything along those lines, or life lessons, you know, things that you would tell somebody else if you were given a bit of advice?
Yeah, so I think in terms of my favourite like hothouse memory, I was trying to have a little think of this, and I think a little context is that if anyone was in the same bus journey as me to Paris back in the day, they probably knew I was treating those as a rehearsal for an eventual X Factor performance. And I used to love singing Don't Stop Me Now on those. And I remember one year you went away and you were like, Sam, I'm going to write that for saxophonics. And lo and behold, a year later, we were playing that in like the Jardin de Luxembourg, and that was like one of those memories with band where you look back and you think, yeah, that was amazing. And then I guess in terms of life lessons, to keep it like short and brief, I think just don't be afraid to fail and make mistakes. I think up until a certain point, apart from 3 driving tests, I hadn't necessarily failed too much, and then I was sort of starting to worry about when I first started getting things wrong or making the wrong decisions or stuff. But I think you learn 10 times more from those than you do from any of your successes. So yeah, I think for anybody who's trying to work out what to do or where to go, just, stick to your interests and don't be afraid to make any bad decisions or fail along the way, because it will only help you in the long run.
I think that's brilliant. And it's been lovely to catch up, mate. I really appreciated it. I hope your night shift goes super well. And if there's anybody out there, any of the viewers out there that would like to get in touch with Sam, just get in touch with Hot House and we'll send any messages through. And I'm sure he will come back to you and answer any questions. Because I mean, Amazon's a massive company, one of the biggest in the world, isn't it? So I think there'll be lots of people out there thinking, is it a career for me? And just a quick reminder for all of you, if you're watching this Vox Talk and you enjoyed it, make sure you subscribe at the bottom. And there's all the links to the things that Sam's been doing in his journey underneath, and hopefully we'll get to see you at another time, and have a great day, and we'll see you in the future. Bye guys.